Welcome to Season 1 of the PMO Community podcast series. I'm Aina Live, your guide on this engaging exploration into the world of PMO leadership, highlighted by our unique book writing challenge. This season promises a series of enriching interviews with our distinguished book co-authors. Today, I'm thrilled to converse with Remko Winkel, a seasoned PMO manager, portfolio manager, author, and speaker. Since embarking on this journey as a self-employed project manager in 2018, Remko has expertly assisted organizations in navigating their projects, changing the organization development processes with a perfect blend of theoretical knowledge and practical experience. So currently serving as ambassador lead EMEA and an advisory board member for the PMO leader, Remko is driven by a quest to discover what works when and why. And his innovative problem-solving abilities have consistently delivered groundbreaking solutions across various organizations. In this episode, we dive into the integration of the theory of constraints, the significance of customer collaboration, challenges in integration, and the evolving future of Agile PMOs. So don't miss out on our upcoming episodes. Follow us on social media to stay updated. And let's go now. First, could you explain to our listeners what theory of constraints is?
Well, the theory of constraints, and I'm not an expert, I have to say this at first, actually says that within every production line or every system, there is an element that is basically determining the speed of flow of production or work. This element, or what they call constraint, simply limits that. For instance, when you work in a factory, you have several machines, and the slowest machine is the limitation for the amount of products that can go through the line. If you translate this to project management or knowledge work, it's basically a person, most likely, that is responsible for the speed you can go. If this person is loaded to the maximum capacity, it doesn't help to add more work to the project because this person has to finish all the work and is limiting the throughput, so to say. So basically, the integration between the theory of constraints and the projects is about resource management.
Could you tell me a little bit in depth how the theory of constraints aligns with Agile and how all of this can help in setting up PMO or like bringing PMOs to the next level?
Well, basically, it's very simple because whatever methods of approach you choose for your development, whether it be adaptive or predictive, like in waterfall systems, there's work to be done. There's always a project just consists of a volume of work that needs to be done. So the speed at which this can be done relies on basically how fast the person can go that it has to do with everything. They also usually compare it to a chain. You have heard the expression the weakest link. So a chain is as strong as the weakest link. But that's a nice comparison. In a project, if you have one person that is overloaded, but is still involved in all the work you do, then you can't go any faster because this person is limiting your speed. So it doesn't really have to apply to Agile or projects or whatever. The theory is just that every system has one element that is responsible for the total speed of in which the system can go. So what this theory says is you should focus on this constraint, which can be a person, which can be a machine, but can also be some external factors, and try to make sure that everything is put in front of this. If you don't, what will you get? You get a pile up of inventory because this person cannot go fast enough. The work before him will just pile up. It has also been translated to a project management method, which is the critical chain project management method. And then they go in and they say, okay, maybe you should make sure that the whole project is enhanced with some buffers. So you make sure that the person can keep up. Maybe you should say the best thing to do is to make sure this person goes faster, etc., etc. Another analogy they use is when you have, for instance, some Boy Scouts which are marching down a field. You put the slowest person in front. So the slowest person is responsible for the pace. Then you say, can't you go faster? For instance, you have a heavy backpack, let the other ones carry it, so you can go faster. So this way, the theory of constraints says you should look for ways to improve the throughput of the system. And in that way, you can enhance the productivity of your project. It has not really something to do with Agile or the way we do projects. It simply states in every system there's an element that's determining the speed of your whole system.
So why do you think fostering customer collaboration fundamental in the Agile or PMO approach, and how does it directly influence project outcomes?
Well, I think that's a very interesting question, because first let me challenge the customer collaboration in this. And my favorite quote on this is when you asked Henry Ford what his customers would want, and they would probably say, he said, a faster horse, and not an automobile. So sometimes you're doing things your customer doesn't even know he wants. So let's keep that in mind. On the other hand, of course, Lean says, if you look at Lean principles, they say you should only build on the demand of your customers. If you build more than your customers demand, you have an inventory. And what is inventory? If you're a bookkeeper, you say it's an asset. But if you really think about it, it's nothing. You can't sell it. It's just sitting there on the shelf. So inventory is waste in the Lean methodology. So when you look at customer collaboration, in my view, and when you combine it with Agile, it is that it says, well, you should just make sure that you always add value, which is indeed also a Lean principle. So coming to that, Lean and Agile are largely connected to each other. A lot of things we do in Agile or in Agile approaches or methodologies directly comes from the thinking of Lean. It's an evolution. It's not a revolution. It's an evolution. Well, to answer your questions, customer collaboration is important. It can be fundamental. When you're selling products that are really in demand, it can be fundamental. But sometimes you have to do something new and invent new products.
Thank you, Remco. And I really love the quote from Henry Ford. I am a big fan of Henry Ford since childhood, and I was very excited when I was a teenager, learning that I share the same birthday with him.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes.
Well, he was the one that invented the conveyor belt, and that's a very interesting concept because that's also in Lean. And basically, what it does is, instead of your mechanics going from car to car in assembly, you just bring the car in assembly to the workers. And by that way, you create flow. And that's basically, if you want to have a quote from me, what is the main thing in Agile, the main thing in Lean, the main thing in the theory of constraints, it's all about flow. You want work, production to be in a uninterrupted, continuous flow. So you have the maximum throughput, smooth operations, etc. So flow is a central theme.
Yeah, and I also believe that Henry Ford was also the one who could really understand the problem. Even the quote you just told, Remco, the customer wants a horse with a higher speed. So that is too detailed description from the customer, right? Basically, if you go like one level higher, it's going to be customer just wants something with higher speed. It's not necessarily the horse. But when you ask customer for feedback, they jumped into the details because sometimes we cannot see like the bigger picture. So what do we want? We want higher speed horse. do you really want a horse? That is like the next question from the coach. Probably not. I want something which will bring me faster to where I want to be. But
very good. That's the main thing. I was just wanting to interrupt you. It's not about being fast, or it's not about being in a horse or a bicycle or a car. It is the value for the customer is that the transportation takes less time. However you accomplish that, the customer doesn't really matter, apart from how much it will cost, of course. But the main concern, the main value is I have a transportation question, I have transportation demand, and I would like it to be quick.
Exactly. So we're providing you speed. That's what you wanted, not a horse with a speed. And I think
and if we invent teleportation, so we can just move you around within a split second, that'll be the ultimate product.
exactly. So I think by like thinking like this narrow way thinking, like some customers do, like I want a horse. I add extra speed to the horse, bring us to the obstacles of transformation. So this is how I'm leading to my next question about challenging of integration. So what challenges do you see while we're integrating something new, and do you have any like anecdotes how to overcome them?
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's probably all about the image. When Goldratt wrote his book, The Goal, in which he explained his first principles about the theory of constraints, the first thing that happened was, well, it's a theory, people thought. The book was successful, but they said it's a theory. The main reason he called it a theory was because he was a physicist. And within physics, you have the theory of gravity. And nobody denies the theory of gravity. The thing is, it's a theory because we still don't know how it exactly works. So the name has a problem. Some even say, yeah, it's a 80 solutions to a 70s problem. It's old, it's not relevant anymore, etc. Which is a bias, of course. There have been some studies on why the theory of constraints is not so popular. And it's basically the thing is it's so simple that people think it's too simple. And there I would like to quote Einstein, who says you have to make things as simple as possible, but not simpler. There's a lot of truth in the theory of constraints. It has been enhanced, extended to all kinds of areas. And I know of some people, some groups, or some companies who implement enormous improvements based on the principles of theory of constraints, but it's an image problem.
Thank you for this answer, Remko, and again for a different way of view of the problems and how simple we are going to be. And my last question is about future. And I know it's hard to predict the future, and everyone will have a different opinion, but it's going to be interesting, to listen to this podcast 1 or 2 years later and see how much we were right and how much we were wrong. So what future do you see for the PMO and project management profession?
The future for PMO is quite bright. I think PMOs are around since the 1960s of the last centennial. We've seen a lot. We've seen project management coming up in all its flavors. We've seen Lean coming up. We've seen Agile coming up. What I always do is go back to the why. Why are PMOs there? What's their main reason for being there as well? And my answer to that is they are to empower change. They are there. They could be very simple by providing methodologies and templates and reports and such. But it could also be by sharing knowledge, by educating people. But it's about empowering change. The world is evolving faster and faster every day. And the PMO is providing guidance, direction, evaluation, knowledge, and such. So that means that you mentioned that we have different kind of things to think about maybe as a PMO. So all these new things come about. But the essence remains the same. We're there to empower the change. So there's a bright future because things change.
Yeah, absolutely agree. If there is no change, there is no future. So definitely we have future, but it's going to be the same future as the present time. Thank you for tuning in to the PMO Community Podcast for this enlightening discussion with Remko de Winkel. And special thanks to our volunteers at the PMO Community Podcast for making this episode possible. Stay tuned for more captivating insights and interviews in our upcoming episodes. And don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated. If you find this episode valuable, please remember to like and share it. And also feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn with any questions or requests. And for the latest updates, make sure to follow us on social media provided.